If you like fishing, you better listen, because this is the Bass Junkies podcast.
Let's go!
What is up, our fellow Bass Junkies? You guys are listening to the very first, the inaugural episode of the Bass Junkies podcast. We appreciate you guys tuning in. And Josh, I got to tell you, man, I'm super excited to do this. It's feel like it's been something that's been heavy on my mind the last few days. I've been really excited to get this thing started.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Nervous too. You know, it's kind of, me and you have talked about it. You know, we don't always talk in front of a camera the best, but basically me and Matt decided we had these conversations for hours on end, texting or talking. So we're like, we might as well just start recording this stuff. So I'm excited.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, guys. And how we're going to kind of structure this tonight is, first, we're just going to kind of quickly talk about how this all came together, you know, which Josh kind of touched base on it there. Then Josh and myself are going to give you backstories kind of about us. I know this will be on the Bread for Bass channel, and a lot of you guys might already know Josh. But then I know Josh's subscribers from Ohio Bass Guru that don't know me, and I want you guys to be able to get to know me and vice versa. So we're going to do that. And then the last thing, and we're going to talk about the Bassmaster Classic, which is going on this weekend, which is probably what most of you guys are really here for anyway. So, Josh, if you want to get it started about how you, I guess, what's your version of how this kind of came together?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of touched light on it already, but I live and breathe bass fishing. So first of all, I'll introduce myself. I'm Josh Langley. For people who don't know, I have a YouTube channel called Ohio Bass Guru. So I started to pay my YouTube channel about a year ago, or it's not coming up on a year. But me and Matt, we met each other. I honestly think the first time we ever talked was because we had the same exact boats. We had Bassmaster Classic boats.
I would agree.
We met through a Facebook group, and then we were like, hey man, we live like literally 45 minutes to an hour apart. And we just became buddies. And then watching his YouTube channel really kind of influenced me to start my own YouTube channel. And then we really just bounce a lot of ideas off of each other. And honestly, I think a lot of your subscribers are also some of my subscribers and vice versa. And that's really how this got started. Me and Matt, like, we could show you, we literally will text each other for hours on end, just bullshitting about fishing everything, you know,
to the point where our significant others probably think we're having an affair.
Yeah. Like, my girlfriend's just like, are you texting Matt? And I'm like, yep. Because I don't text other people that much. I'm a pretty sheltered dude, honestly, but like, bass fishing's kind of where I break out, you know, and I love, like, it's my passion. It's like, even Matt said, I mean, I don't do drugs. I do drink a little bit of alcohol here and there, but like, bass fishing is my drug. And Matt has said that a bunch, you know?
Yeah.
So we thought, we bouncing off each other. We were kind of going to like, oh, let's do some lives together or this or that. And I'm like, man, let's just start a podcast. Like, I love fishing podcasts. Like, I couldn't even tell you any relevant music because all I listen to is that podcast in my car. Like,
yeah. And Josh got me turned on to listening to fishing podcasts. You know, he listens to him out on his boat when he's fishing, and I've heard him in the background on his videos and stuff. And that got me actually when I'm out there on the water, turning fishing podcasts on while I'm out there fishing. So, and kind of to pick up where Josh left off there. Yeah, guys, we just, like he said, we both love fishing. We talk a lot about fishing, him and I. We've never met each other in person. We're going to change that this year. Hopefully we're going to get together and do some fishing.
Yeah,
but
probably here in about a month, actually.
Yeah, and we know obviously everybody knows we're not professional anglers. We're just two average Joe working class guys that just love bass fishing. And, you know, we're having these long conversations quite frequently about just different things when it comes to bass fishing. And we're like, you know what, let's just start recording this, man. And let's make like a podcast / video cast, whatever you guys want to call it. Let's have some fun with it. So that's kind of how this all came together. And would you agree for the most part on that, Josh?
Absolutely. And I'll give Matt a lot of credit because he's much better with the technology than I am. So he's brought together a lot. He's done a lot of the footwork, honestly. You know, he's made the introduction, the pictures, all that stuff. So, you know, if it wasn't for you, this would not be happening. So,
well, I appreciate it, brother. I'm excited. So here's how we're going to do this next, guys. We're going to give you a quick backstory of, you know, when we started bass fishing. And Josh, if you guys want to lead off with it, then I'll follow you.
Yeah. It's funny because I actually went fishing today, and we'll get to that here in a minute. But as I was fishing, and I've told Matt this before, if any of you guys that watch my videos, I talk to myself a lot when I'm fishing. And I even caught myself today talking to myself. And I was kind of going over what I was going to say for this backstory. And to be honest with you, I know, like, I watch a lot of YouTube, and these professional anglers are always like, yeah, I caught this bass on May 23rd, 1986, blah, blah, blah. I'll be honest with you, I don't really remember ever catching my first bass. Growing up, and I grew up in Northwest Ohio. I did not grow up. I live in Chillicothe, Ohio, which is an hour south of Columbus. I grew up in a little town, or it's not little, but it's a town of Clyde, Ohio, which is close to Lake Erie. And growing up, I just remember my dad would take some Lake Erie fishing trips, and then I was a bluegill slayer back then, man. Like, and this was before the bass days, but I would catch a bass periodically. But I mean, bobber, worm, and my grandpa, he would take me to a fishing derby every year. And I'm going to see if my parents still have those trophies, but I mean, I would win this thing, or I'd get second every year. And it was always for the most fish caught, because I didn't care about catching a big one. I just sit there and just pick off the bluegill. But when I really started getting into bass fishing, I would say I was probably about 12 or 13. And we would always take a family vacation. My aunt and uncle lived in Michigan, and they lived on a private lake. My uncle was a doctor, so they had quite a bit of money. So for us, it was like a vacation to go up there. And they had all these boats, but I was 12 years old, so I wasn't allowed to use them, but I was allowed to use the paddle boat. And I mean, I'd paddle all over that damn lake, and I would just fish. And again, I wasn't even using bass lures. I was just using worm, bobber, but I'd catch bass. So I think it was just a natural progression. Like, I love to fish. And I remember we had a local pond where I grew up. I grew up out in the country, but I did not grow up like country. Like, we didn't live on a farm or anything like that. And I had a lot of friends that were my age, and we had a local pond. This guy would let us fish, and the thing was loaded full of bass. Like, I'd love to go back there and fish it again sometime. But he let us go down there, and we go down there and dick around, and all my buddies would use worm and stuff. And I started, like 12, 13, I started reading magazines. This is long before the internet days. I was, you know, I'm 41 years old. And I would just go to like the Walmarts or the Kmarts. You remember Kmart used to be the place to go buy fish and stuff too. But I'd go there, and I think I was just buying I'd buy like purple worms. And I learned how to Texas rig them by looking basically, I think, at like an In Fisher magazine. And I was like, oh my God, that's genius. You put this hook in, you twist it around, it makes it weedless. And that's basically what started the bass fishing for me. And I'd go down there, and I would just catch a lot of fish. It was a pond. It was a really good pond to start out in, because you caught a lot of fish. And I'll be honest with you, I think I casted the worm out and just reeled it, and I still caught a ton of fish. So then I went off to college. I mean, I still fished, and my dad started getting Lake Erie boats. We did the Lake Erie stuff, but I never knew anybody that had a bass boat, or nobody ever took me bass fishing per se. So I went to college, and I went to college at Hockin College in Nelsonville, Ohio. And they had a bunch of fishing ponds down there, and I started bass fishing even more down there, and I started to really get into it. And then I got married, had a kid, and me and my wife, well, she's my ex-wife now, but we built a house across the street from her parents, and her parents had a pond. That's actually the pond I went to and fished today, because I'm still really good friends with her father-in-law, which is also my son's grandpa. But I went to that pond again. Really I got into fishing. I started buying stuff, and I had a pond where I could just experiment. And then about, I think 2006 or 7-ish, I actually bought a boat, and I bought a 14-foot John boat, and I decked it out. I mean, I don't have any photos where I'd show you guys, but this thing was like the mecca of 14-foot John boats. This is before like the 10 boat stuff was really, really cool. But I had a troll motor on the front. I had fish finders. I mean, it was just a really good boat. And I had that boat for almost 15 years, I would say. And then I started taking that boat to different lakes around the area, like Hargis Lake was one of them, Ross Lake. I ended up putting a little 6-horse on it. And I mean, I just wear them out. And then at work, I started hanging out with some other dudes that were into bass fishing. So I started going out with them, and, you know, they had legit bass boats. And then fast forward, I actually, I think it was 2017, I went through a divorce. And if anybody's ever been through that, you know, it's just, it really sucks. But I still had my boat. My parents got into camping, so they invited me up to East Harbor to camp with them one time. My dad's like, you should bring your boat up here. And I always heard about the harbors at Lake Erie. So I was like, yeah. And I was worried, so I thought my boat might be too small. I went up there, and literally just opened the floodgates. And for you guys who watch my videos, you know I go up to Lake Erie all the time now. Well, forward a couple more years, I get myself stable. I buy my own house. So I went and I got rid of that boat, and I actually bought me what I consider, you know, a legit bass boat, even though they're not like technically bass boats. You know, I mean, they're aluminum boats, and that has allowed me to fish a lot more places too. And that pretty much brought me to current day. But I've always just loved fishing. I mean, and I've always had this thing for bass fishing. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I remember Sunday afternoons when I was a kid was awesome because I think it was called TNT channel. It wasn't TNN yet. It was TNT, the Nashville Network channel. Mm-hmm. And every Sunday afternoon they had like Bill Dance and Roland Martin and Orlando Wilson and the Bassmasters. And I'm like, and I mean, I was always glued to that stuff. So I didn't necessarily have somebody to take me bass fishing. I was never really introduced to it. I just kind of got myself into it. And that's pretty much what started this. And then, like I said, I've just, for the last 12 years, I've been super passionate about it. I mean, there's not a day goes by where I don't think about bass fishing. I mean, that's all I do. I look at it on the phone. I talk about it. So,
yeah, man.
And like Matt said, we're not professional anglers. I don't claim to be a professional angler. I mean, I do consider myself a decent fisherman. I mean, I feel like I do a good job catching fish, but we're just normal dudes. I mean, I'm a paramedic. Matt's an electrician. So like we work normal jobs, you know, I mean, like.
So basically what happens is I shock the shit out of myself. Then Josh comes, picks me up and revives me essentially.
Yeah, exactly. I hope that don't happen, but
nah. Yeah, man, you know, that's the first time I heard a lot of that stuff, and that's very interesting to hear. I know you kind of touched briefly on the YouTube thing and how that started, but do you want to kind of let everybody know that hasn't seen your channel, kind of what it's about? Because not only does Josh do fishing stuff, but he also does hunting stuff as well.
Yeah, I didn't even touch on that. So I'm also a very avid deer hunter, actually a bow hunter. I love to eat deer. I don't necessarily like to kill them, honestly. I mean, they're beautiful animals, but like we have to control the population. I don't even want to go down that road, but I'm just not a cold blood killer. But I do love bow hunting is one of my passions, and I also do that on my channel. It's Ohio Bass Guru, and it's more of a fishing channel. But I was fortunate enough this year to do. We good?
Yeah, we're good.
All right. I was fortunate enough this year to do some hunting videos, and I killed 6 deer here in Ohio, and I captured all 6 of them on video. So if you guys are into hunting videos, check them out too, man. I thought I did a good job for what I had. I mean, I just used some GoPros and my iPhone. It's honestly going to make me better at filming fishing, because it brought a whole different aspect into this whole recording thing. And I know anybody who's ever done the YouTube thing, especially fishing, like it looks easy. It's really not that easy. Like there's a lot more that's into it than people realize. But that too that's made me want to fish even more. Honestly, I like capturing stuff on video, not to show off or anything. It's fun. I like the editing process. I like trying to be creative. And so that's pretty much where the YouTube channel thing is going. But the best thing about the YouTube for me, it has brought me, I've met a lot of people that are very similar like me and Matt met basically through YouTube and Facebook. And I also have a Facebook group, Ohio Bass Guru, on Facebook. And I've met a bunch of people through there. I've met people through Matt's channel. I mean, so that's the best thing. It's just a community of fishing people, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah, and you know, kind of getting back to the hunting thing real quick, you know, the hunting, yeah, you did a great job with the hunting stuff. I honestly could give 2 shits less about hunting, but I watched them and I was pretty intrigued. I mean, I watched the entire video. Like I was pretty locked in, especially when he was trying to get that last tag filled. So it was really cool, man. And I think you're doing a great job, and keep it up.
I appreciate it. Well, you know, I also think the hunting thing, fishing, sometimes with the GoPros, you just click it on and you go,
Yeah.
you know, and you catch a bunch of fish. You know, I'm not going to go out and kill 13 deer in one setting, you know, but I can go out and catch 13 bass, and that paints a story. Well, the thing with hunting is the actual hunting or killing part of the video is literally sometimes maybe 10 seconds. So what it's taught me is I really have to paint a picture, and I got to get a lot of B-roll, and I got to get this, and I need to talk to a camera. Because some of my early videos, fishing videos, I basically just would show me catching fish, and I wouldn't talk to the camera. And I'm trying to paint more of a picture. I mean, the biggest thing is I want my YouTube videos to be like the YouTube videos that I like to watch, you know. So, and the ones I like to watch are the ones where the guys really vlog a lot, honestly, you know. So
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. So kind of getting into how I started. I was born in Norfolk, Virginia. I started bass fishing at a very early age. My father got me into it. My father, my Uncle Stoney, Uncle Corey, their dad, my grandpa Rocky. I guess it started with my grandpa Rocky. He was a diehard bass fisherman. He raised them three boys all into bass fishing. But then my dad kind of just passed it along to me at a very young age. I mean, honestly, I started fishing with a bait caster. Like, that's how I learned, was on a bait caster. And God bless my dad's heart, man, because he was a very patient man. Because, dude, when we would go fishing, I hooked every dock, every tree. I mean, I don't know how he did it. Like, I try to take my son, and it is you have to be very patient. We'll just say that. I mean, I appreciate it, because I fell in love with it at a pretty early age. When I was about 11 or 12, Buckeye Lake here, there was one outstanding year we had. And that's when I really started catching bass on a lake using bass lures. And it was just game, set, score from there, right? You know, caught a lot of bass that year, fished a couple tournaments as a junior. They're called the Pete Taylor tournaments. Those are tournaments that Pete Taylor is actually a relative of mine somehow, some way. My whole family, guys, is fishing. I mean, not to get all sappy, but just recently my grandmother passed, and we have a lot of my family members are actually buried in the same location on this hill. And you go up there, and all the tombstones have bass on them. I'm not joking. They're like fish carved into them. I mean, it's wild stuff. So that's kind of how it all got started. And then my dad and I kept fishing throughout the years. Now, obviously, when I became a teenager, we didn't fish. I mean, we fished, but it wasn't like something I want to do all the time. I had other stuff I was more into at that time, you know. But we still took our trips. We go to Lake Hartwell, which we'll talk about here in a little while. Rice Lake in Canada. My grandfather, my dad, and all them, they used to go to Rice Lake every year in the fall. And then once I kind of got old enough, my dad started taking me, and that's kind of when I fell in love with smallmouth, was at Rice Lake in Canada. And then after we made that trip for a few years, and around this time, I'm probably 18, 19 years old. I kind of got out of fishing. We were still taking that trip, but I met my fiance, or my wife now, and we had a child, and I kind of got out of it for a little while. I mean, I still would fish every once in a blue moon when we take that trip, or we might go out once or twice a year to Buckeye Lake. But it wasn't until a few years ago that I decided, hey, I want to get back into this. And I started fishing in the local creeks and streams, wading the rivers and catching creek smallmouth. And that's something my dad and I did as well when I was a child. And I got my buddy Ryan, or my cousin Ryan, into it. And you guys, if you watch my videos, you'll see Ryan a lot in my videos. We started doing that. And then after about a couple of years of that, I'm like, man, I really need to get a boat. Like, I've always fished out of a boat, because my father had a boat. And I really need to get a boat. So got a boat last year, my first one, did a lot of modifications to it. And that's, like Josh said, that's kind of how we met, was through this Bass Tracker Facebook group. And that's kind of what my YouTube channel is based off of. My channel kind of started was I was doing modifications to my boat, and I was putting these pictures on the Facebook groups, and I was getting a lot of questions about it. So my way of streamlining this process was, hey, I'll just record videos of this stuff, put them on a YouTube channel, and then I can leave these links and these Facebook groups for people to go see how I did it or what I did, because everybody in this group has the same boat. So that's kind of how it really started. And then it just kind of took off from there. Now, kind of backtracking, where Josh and I have some things in common is Lake Erie. So it was probably, I think it was 2000, I want to say 12, somewhere in there. Lake Erie. We were going to Rice Lake. We were going to Rice Lake in Canada, but we wanted to find something more close. And my dad's always talked about, how he heard Lake Erie had good smallmouth fishing, but we didn't really know where to go. So I started doing some internet research and digging into it, and I found obviously the Western Basin here. And I'm like, hey man, these islands sound like they're kind of like the go-to. And we went up there one year. He has like a 17-foot deep V, kind of like a walleye boat, and we smashed them. So we've been going back up there ever since. And like Josh said, the harbors, if we couldn't get on the main lake, we would start fishing in the harbors. And the largemouth fishing in the harbors is it's excellent. I mean, it's a very underrated part of Lake Erie, at least where we live. I mean, you always hear about the great smallmouth fishing, which there is great smallmouth fishing. But the largemouth fishing on Lake Erie and these harbors and Sandusky Bay and stuff like that is absolutely fantastic. It really is. I mean, it's a lot better than anything else we have here close, because to be 100% honest with you guys, Ohio fishing, it can be a little bit difficult sometimes. It can. I mean, they're highly pressured lakes. They're not real big lakes. It's not that we have bad fishing, but it's just they're pressured. A lot of tournaments on them. Them bass have seen a lot of the same lures, and it can be really difficult to catch 5 bass in a day. It can be. I mean, that's a good day. If you get 5 bites in a day, it's like, hell, that was a good day. But Lake Erie, somewhere you can go to, and you can have one of those just amazing days. So that's kind of my backstory, guys. I know I kind of went all over the place with that, but that's my backstory and how I started fishing and where we are present day.
Yeah, and going forward, like Matt was talking about Lake Erie, talking about our boats. We're not going to go into great detail today on that because those are going to be future topics, guys. We're going to do a Lake Erie video where we're going to release all the juice, as I should say, because I know some people will probably get upset about that because they act like it's some big secret up there, but it's not. And I will tell you exactly where to go to catch fish up there because there's 8 zillion billion bass. You can't catch them all. So,
it's already cut you off. It's not.
Yeah.
It might be a secret, but if you just go in them harbors, it ain't a secret. Everybody knows the same spots. Trust me. Josh can see in my video, like, I know where you're fishing. I can see in Josh's video, like, I know exactly where you're fishing. I've tore him up on that same spot without you and I even ever talking. I mean, it's just how it is. So there ain't no, I don't care if people get mad about us revealing anything.
Yeah, and we're going to do these videos in the future. And we also want you guys to chime in and tell us what you would like to hear. We're going to do we could talk about this stuff for hours and days. But we are going to do a Lake Erie video. We're actually going to do a boat video. Like I said, me and Matt have the same boat. So we're going to go over why we purchased that boat and all that stuff. But different episode. So
yeah, that'll probably be what we'll do next week. As I was thinking,
we can go into the boat stuff because it is that time of year. Everybody's getting their boats and stuff out. So.
And a lot of people that follow the Bread for Bass channel and probably the same thing with High Bass Guru have the Bass Tracker Classic XL as well. So I think it's a topic that everybody's very interested in hearing us talk about. So that's kind of our backstory, guys. And now it's time for the fun stuff. And
you want to go over what our plans are as far as fishing for the year?
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, go ahead, man.
Right. So the funny thing is, my channel and my a lot of people just think I live on Lake Erie because 90% of my videos are on Lake Erie. And like Matt said, I'm actually very fortunate because I do have some pretty good lakes around me as far as Ohio is concerned. Living in Central Ohio, and Matt has actually ventured up and he's doing some of the Columbus lakes, which are really, really well, which I've never done. But to be honest with you guys, if I get a day or two where I can go, and I'm fortunate because I am a paramedic, I work a 24/48 schedule. I have just one son. He's 16 years old. So and he's with his mom half the time. It gives me a lot of time to go up and fish at Lake Erie during the week. But for me, that's where I like to fish. It's worth the drive. Now I am a little concerned because gas prices shot up today to $3.60. So at least in my neck of the woods. So that's probably going to hurt my trips a little bit this year. Those little one-day trips to Lake Erie probably aren't going to happen. As far as my plans for this year, I was super excited. All right. So when I was talking about my backstory, Hargis Lake is a lake in Circleville. It's like a 120-acre lake. That is an excellent bass fishing lake. It's probably going to take a little while to rebound, but last year that lake was shut down. You weren't allowed to fish. You could fish it. You just weren't allowed to put a boat into it. And what they did is they drained it because they had to fix the dam. And they've done this like twice now in the last 10 years. But I have caught a lot of big bass in that lake. So I'm super excited because yesterday I just seen on Facebook that it is at full pull and the boat ramp is open. So I'll be going there quite a bit. I want to do a lot of local lakes. I actually want to try to venture into some of these smaller local lakes. I think those are some of the lakes where you can catch the bigger fish. But as far as trips are planned, me and Matt, we're going to St. Clair. It's just, you'd have to play that. That is not a trip you can really plan, especially with our boats. So we have to kind of play it by ear as far as the weather is concerned. But we're looking at late April and sometime maybe early May getting up to Lake St. Clair. And then I'm going to Lake Erie for a week. I'm going to look at my phone here real quick. But it's the middle of May. Yep. May 16th through the 20th, I'm going to be at Lake Erie. And I probably honestly won't even smallmouth fish. I think I'm just going to largemouth fish all 5 days because that is such a prime time up there for largemouth. And then in July, I'm also going back to Lake Erie for a week. And then I'm going to do another week in October, which if you guys see my last fishing videos, basically, but before hunt season, I absolutely hammered the fish up at Lake Erie in October. And those are basically my fishing trips that I have planned. And like I said, a lot of it's just shooting from the hip. And, I'm very spontaneous. So like, you'll find out because we're going to plan to do this at least a weekly show. And we're going to talk about our fishing trips, but there might be a week where I just take off. I mean, last year I literally took off, went to St. Clair. I left the house at 3 a.m. I went to Lake St. Clair, which is in Detroit, Michigan, which is 5 hours from my house, which with traffic is about 6 hours. And I went up there and I fished all day, fished till dark, put the boat on the trailer, slammed like 3 Red Bulls, and drove back. And I was in my bed at 3 a.m. the next morning. So I do some crazy shit like that.
Yeah,
so
that's a wild stuff right there.
But I did catch them. I hammered them up there, so it was awesome. But I'd have been so mad if I wouldn't have caught them. So that's basically my trips for the year. Matt's got me really, really thinking about maybe taking a trip to Lake Cumberland too, because I know the fishing down there is unbelievable, and it's literally like 4.5 hours from my house. So I think that's a lake I might try to venture to maybe this year if I get a chance. And then, like you said,
that or Dale Hollow, they're both kind of
And like you said, we're not
similar
professional fishermen, so there's times where I go a week or two without fishing, and I have a life. I have to work. I work every third day, and then I'm also getting married in June, so I got that obligation. Well, not an obligation. I mean, but I'm getting married in June, so I got that going on. Plus, my son is very active in sports. And I also have a soon-to-be stepson who does the same stuff. So, we get our fishing trips in when we can, but
yeah. And for me personally, man, I don't really have. I mean, obviously the St. Clair stuff that Josh has talked about, and then my dad and I will go to Lake Erie, which is going to be right there early May sometime. So that's kind of really both my trips are going to be right there late April, early May. And then most of my stuff, guys, is going to be on just here, Alum Creek, Buckeye Lake. There's a small lake by my house, Oakthorpe, Rush Creek Lake, stuff like that. And I am going to Lake Cumberland on vacation with my family here in end of July, which we went June last year. So we're going pretty late in the year. So there'll be some stuff on that. But for the most part, guys, it's going to be just those 2 trips that I know of as of right now. And actually, my dad and I are actually talking about going. We were just talking about this last night, is going to Lake Erie, but actually going closer to the Pennsylvania line instead of going to the islands, trying something different. There's a spot there he wants to try. So, but yeah, guys, that's all I really have planned as far as the trip. So,
yeah. Well, we're going to be bringing a lot of, just our YouTube channels alone, you'll see a lot of fishing stuff, and then we're going to talk about everything. So I think it'll be awesome.
Yeah.
You guys we're going to bring you along for every trip, put it that way.
Yeah.
And then I think as the summer moves on, like I said, me and Matt become good friends, but we've never even met yet. So we're going to try to, get together. I'll bring my boat over. We'll go fish Oakthorpe, maybe throw a couple dollars in a pot, see who catches the biggest fish. And record it, I mean, have fun with it, so there's going to be a lot of opportunities for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I'm looking forward to it.
Well, Matt, I did get out and do a little fishing today.
Nice.
So, yeah, like Matt said, we live in Ohio, man. So we unfortunately we can fish like 6 months out of the year, and we have to wait another 6 months. But we're recording this on March 2nd, and at least here in Southern Ohio, I know they still got ice up in Northern Ohio. We've had like 2 or 3 really nice days. And I got the itch. I'm like, man, I'm gonna go try to catch a fish. I didn't get the boat out or anything, but I just went to a local pond, and I actually took. It's pretty funny. It's a thermometer I use for when I smoke meat. I dipped it in the water, and the water temperature, it was 49 degrees, which isn't bad. So I figured, and I knew this pond has fish. It don't have fish like it used to, but it's got fish in there. So I'm like, man, I know I can catch these. So about the first hour, and this is a small pond, I would say maybe a half an acre pond. About the first 45 minutes, I didn't get a bite. And I'm like, man, come on. And I didn't even bring tackle. I rigged up 4 rods, and I brought them. And then, lesson learned, I was concentrating on the deeper end of the pond because I was super convinced that these fish were still in their deeper water. Well, I went to the other end of the pond, and first cast, boom, catch one. And what they were doing is they were just getting up in the shallow parts because it was warmer water. And honestly, that's which way the wind was blowing. So it was obviously blowing their I don't know what kind of fordage they have in that pond, but it was, it was blowing that way. So I ended up catching 6 bass today, which is pretty awesome. I mean, I haven't caught a bass since last October. So,
yeah, it's sweet,
and I just wanted
man.
to show you guys this right here. This was the player. Find it here on the thing. I caught 4 of the fish on this bait right here, and I just wanted to talk about it for a minute. But this is a Rapala or Rapala, depending on how you want to say it. But it's first time I ever fished
Rapala.
I say Rapala too.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've ever fished this bait, but I've heard a lot of good things. And flat-sided crankbaits are kind of a new. I wouldn't say they're new, but they're kind of a craze right now. And this is the one made by Aunt Defoe, and it's actually a balsa bait. That's why I like it. I know a lot of people like that Berkeley Fritz side, and I've never fished it. I imagine it's really good, but it's a plastic bait. And I've had really good luck in the past in cold water with a Rapala Shad Wrap, which is also a balsa bait. But this thing right here, man, I'm going to be ordering more of them, put it that way. So this is an excellent cold water bait, super flat sided. And I was watching it as it was coming in, and it has it's got this action where it's just like super slow, which, balsa acts different than plastic. So just wanted to show you guys this bait right here. And this is the exact one you can see where I bit it off when I got home. But I caught 4 of them on this, and I think this thing's going to play early season. And I'll be honest with you, once the water hits about 52 degrees, I'm throwing a square bill anyways. But early season, this is probably going to replace Shad Wraps for me, honestly, because this thing throws pretty well too. I still threw it on a spinning rod because it's like a 5/16. And I feel like with the spinning rod this time of year, I can crank just a lot slower, if that makes sense. But that baby right there, it was pretty awesome. And these things aren't cheap. They're like $10, but they're well worth it. And I smacked it off the water a couple times on accident, and it's held up. It's got a computer board lip. So,
hey, let me ask you this. I was actually watching a video on YouTube the other day. A guy was talking about red in spring and how red's a very popular color in spring. Not sure why. Some say it's one of the colors the bass see. Some say because of it represents a crawl. But somebody left a comment on there, and I thought it was pretty interesting. They said, "Is it that red is so much better, or is that 95% of the people actually believe red's the best? So everybody's throwing red, so just more bass are actually being caught on red?"
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both, honestly. I have had. I'll talk about this when we go in depth on our Lake Erie video, but I had a time. It's before I taped. I wish I could have taped because the video would have been about 100 minutes long because I caught so many fish up at Lake Erie. And I honestly believe the red crankbait had a big thing to do with it because I ran into some guys who were doing the exact same thing, but they were using the shad style crankbait. So I do think there is something to it. But I honestly believe for that pond, if I have 2 of these and they're both crawdad looking color. I'm going to buy some more. I'm going to buy a couple shad ones just for that because I'll be honest with you, that pond ain't got no crawdads in it. I can tell you that. You know,
Right.
their forage is bluegill in there. So, catch another fish on a shad-colored shad wrap, and then I also caught one on a jerkbait. But that video will be out soon. I did wear my GoPro, so we'll see. I haven't looked at it, so hopefully, if the footage is good, I'm going to try to put together something, and you guys can see that on my page. But yeah, I do think there's something to the red, and it's early, and a lot of it's like Matt had a really good video 2 weeks ago where you talk about confidence,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all confidence, man. And when we get further in and we start talking, I have a red square bill crankbait that I use up at Lake Erie, and I kid you not, and I swear to God, I have caught over 100 bass on that red crankbait. The day it breaks, I'm probably going to cry. I hope when it breaks, I still have it. Then I'm going to hang it on my keychain on my boat. But and the reason it catches fish for me is because I throw it all the time because I have a lot of confidence in it. I honestly think if I threw a chartreuse blackback, I'd probably catch just as many.
Probably.
And we'll go into that later on about why we choose different colors. But the cool thing was I did get out to go fishing today. And I know Matt's going to go this weekend. He was talking, hopefully.
Yeah, that's the plan is right now.
But yeah, I was fortunate enough. I just ran out to a pond that I fished in the past, and I actually had a pretty fun day. So there was the giant. So every fish I caught, guys, was probably less than a pound. I don't think I caught one even close to a pound. So, but it was fun. It was a fun day.
That is fun, dude. It's more than I caught today.
Yeah, it's getting my blood going. I was literally going out there just hoping to catch one, and I ended up catching 6. So it was pretty awesome. I see tomorrow it's going to be like in the 30s. So
yeah, tomorrow's cold, but Saturday's going to be beautiful as right now.
Yeah.
The wind's starting to get a little higher, but it looks like it's still going to be pretty nice. But I'll find somewhere to tuck away. Really, like I said, that Saturday trip for me is more about just getting the motor out there and get it running and get the electronics dialed in. I updated all the software on them and just kind of really, I'm kind of hoping that it's still at Winter Pool because Dad and I went up there last year at the very end of the year, like in November, late October, November, and like it was let down, and you could see a lot of the structure and cover that we fish that you usually don't get to see. So I'm kind of hoping it's still like that because I would like to just burn a tank of gas, basically just going around the entire lake, just scoping it out. To be 100%
and just graphing.
Yeah,
it's a good time to do it. I'm getting off topic a little bit, but it's a good time to do it because the fishing's going to be tough. You know that, and it's hard to graph when you want to just get up there and start fishing. So because even with side scan, if you really think about it, side scans out about 80, 100 feet, but that's really not that far out each side of the boat. So to scan a big area, it takes a long time. I have felt that up at Lake Erie where I'm like, and I'm like, 80 feet is literally 4 of my boats away from me, so like I can almost cast that far. So it does take a while to graph, that's for sure. And that's something, like I said, we're gonna go over electronics too. And I'm actually going to lead into this next segment. We're going to talk about that a little bit.
Just so you guys know, because I don't think we touched on this earlier. The plan is we're going to try to do 1 episode a week, right? That's what we kind of talked about.
Yeah.
We'll probably do like around like that. Anywhere between 30, 45 minutes is where we're going to try to keep it. I mean, I think an hour would be the absolute max. And we're just going to do a bunch of different topics. But what's really important in all this, guys, to be 100% honest with you, is you guys being involved with this, leaving comments and letting us know what topics you guys want to hear us talk about. That's really my main goal of all this, is not only to get to talk fishing with my buddy, but also get the engagement from everybody watching, because Josh and myself, we always answer all of our comments, and one of our favorite things about doing the YouTube thing is actually just meeting new people and talking fishing. So that's really the biggest thing that we want to get out of this, guys, is please let us know what you think. Let us know what you want to hear us talk about. And hopefully at some point we will do live streams. But right now we're just going to keep it because we're both very unexperienced in this. So we're probably going to chop and cut a lot of stuff to put it all together. So that's all I wanted to say real quick, guys. But we can get into this weekend, which is the most exciting weekend in bass fishing.
Yeah, Matt's going to be out on the water Saturday. I'm going to be sitting in my lazy boy watching Bassmaster Classic. So we're going to go into that. We wanted to kind of do for any bass fan, and even if you're not a bass fan, the Bassmaster Classic is it's the Super Bowl of bass fishing. So not only is it the Super Bowl, it also pays probably the largest purse in fishing right now, which is $300,000.
Is it 300? I thought it was 500 for some reason.
No, it's been 300 for a while.
Did it used to be 500?
Yeah, back in the good old days, like 10 years ago. But because of everything that goes on in our country right now, it's 300 grand. But a lot of these guys, the money's important to them, but they just want that title, man. So leading into that, the Bassmaster Classic starts this Friday. It goes Friday. It's a 3-day tournament, so it's unlike any Elite Series tournament, which is a 4-day tournament. This is a 3-day tournament, and I think the format is that there's 50 something anglers. I don't know the exact count this year, but they all get to fish the first 2 days, and then I think on the third day they cut it down to 25.
And I think, sorry to cut you off, I think is it the top 40 Elite Series anglers, and then you got the Bass Open qualifiers, and then
some Bass Nation.
Yeah, so there's a lot of people.
I think they even throw a college guy in there too.
Yeah, they do. You're right.
Yeah, and you'll know those guys if you watch it, because they're the ones that have no sponsorships. They got like generic jerseys and stuff on, but I'd be fine with that. I already told Matt, I said if I made Bassmaster Classic, they wouldn't let me, but I'd want to roll through there in my bass tracker. I think that'd be cool.
That would be awesome.
But so the Bassmaster Classic, it's at Lake Hartwell, which is in South Carolina,
and Georgia. It actually crosses the state line, because that's where my dad and I fished on. It was the Georgia side of Lake Hartwell. We fished there, I think, 3 years in a row. My aunt used to have a spot right there on the water. So
so Matt's been on that water. I've never fished in South Carolina in my life, but I've been through there, but I've never fished there. A little on Lake Hartwell. It's 56,000 acres. So like that just tells you, like, that's why the bass fishing in Ohio is as bad as it is. I think our biggest inland lake is Grand Lake St. Mary's, and I think it's like a couple thousand acres. So like, it's crazy. 56,000. Like, I couldn't imagine.
And it's at least the side I fished of it. I don't know how the Carolina side is, but it's actually really deep, really clear. At least the times we went up there. Honestly, dude, and here's the crazy thing: there's not smallmouth in there. At least there used to not be.
Nope.
And it is absolutely a small, like, it looks like a smallmouth habitat, which I don't know where that line is, where it cuts off going south, where the smallmouth kind of cuts off. Obviously, I know they don't have them in Florida, so I don't know where that line stops.
You think? I mean, it's crazy, because when I was doing my research, looking this up, it's a largemouth and a spotted bass fishery
And a striper. If you like to striper fish, man, dude, the school's a striper on that lake, and you get them on top of water, that you'll just be out there fishing, and it'll start busting on top of the water. You throw a spook or something out there. Oh my God.
I did see striper. I seen one of the anglers. I can't remember who it was, but they were posting some photos from their practice, and they were holding up a huge striper. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I bet they.
But this is the fourth time they've had. So 52nd Bassmaster Classic. So they've had 52 of these. This is the fourth time they're at Lake Hartwell. But they've been here recently quite a bit. So I'll just go over. The first time they came to Lake Hartwell was in 2008. And I remember that tournament. I remember watching that tournament, not on live, because live wasn't then, but just watching, like, on ESPN. And that was the tournament that Charlie Hartley, if anybody knows Charlie Hartley, he's from Grove City, he's from Columbus, Ohio. He actually led day one of that. And he was pretty much an unknown. He's kind of a quirky kind of dude. He's kind of cool, though. And he led day one of that tournament by flipping a jig on a dock, which was pretty cool. Ultimately, Elton Jones ended up winning that tournament. And I remember how Elton Jones won that tournament. He won it fishing deep with a mop jig, which was, a mop jig at that time was a very new thing. And the funny thing is, the mop jig is made by Buckeye Lures, I think. And they're based out of Ohio, too. And the mop jig is just a huge jig, basically. And then it came back in 2015, and I remember watching that one too, because it was super cold. And I remember Ike and Ellie was in. I wanted him to win, and he was kind of in the hunt. But Casey Ashley ended up winning that one in 2015. And the funny thing about that tournament was and I don't know, I don't want to debate if it was right or wrong, but Casey actually I think he either lived on the lake or real close by. And before the off period, him and his buddies and his dad dropped, they said upwards of 50 to 60 brush piles. And that's where he caught a lot of his fish. And he caught his fish on an underspin with a Zoom fluke on the back, and he was just slow rolling it out there. And then in 2018, it came back again, and that was the tournament that Jordan Lee won. And I remember watching it too. The crazy thing was Jordan Lee was in sixth going into the last day, and he actually had boat issues, and he shut down his boat, and he basically fished an area he didn't really know, and he kind of junk fished it, and he ended up winning the tournament. And that was he won the year before, so he was back-to-back winners of the Bassmaster Classic.
Real quick, dude, it's crazy to me that Jordan Lee won back-to-back Bassmaster Classic at such a young age. That is just, some of these guys have been chasing it their whole life.
Jordan Lee's a stud, man.
He is a great fisherman. Don't get me wrong, he is a great fisherman, but to be able to hit it back-to-back that early on in your career, I mean, it's just life-changing and awesome.
Yeah, Jordan's much better than his brother. I hope not that his brother's going to watch this, but but Jordan, I mean, he's won a couple MLF tournaments. I think he's run, he's won some of their bigger tournaments. So that dude is this stud. And that tournament, I was doing some research on it because I couldn't remember how he caught him. And basically they were like, he junk fished. He caught him. He caught him on a swim bait. He was with Strike King at that time, so he caught him like on a Rage Swimmer. He caught him on their I think the Ocho, which is their Cinco. They said he flipped a jig, caught him on an unnamed jerk bait, which is a mega bass. And when they say unnamed, they're fishing a mega bass. And that's how he won. And the crazy thing is, I don't have the exact numbers, but when I was looking at this, all the weights were right around 50 pounds. Like I think, like Jordan won with 47. Casey and Elton both had like right at 50 pounds. But I was listening to a podcast this morning, and they think it's going to be on fire. They think it's just setting up perfect. Now, it's not setting up for a spawn, but it's setting up. The weather up there has been super stable all week. They were saying Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they're going to have lows in the 50s, highs in the upper 70s. And they think it's going to make for a lot of fish catches. They also said, and it made sense to me, is some guys didn't want that weather because it kind of eliminated their offshore bite because those fish were so schooled up. And now with the warm weather, it's going to kind of scatter them out because some fish are going to stay deep, but a lot of them are probably going to start pushing up shallow.
You're going to have to catch them fishing is what it sounds like. I mean,
they're going to be junk fishing, man.
It's going to be, it's not going to be, there's going to be guys that catch them with the Panoptics and live scope or whatever, but I think it's going to play out where they're going to be up into pockets and they're going to be fishing just like the rest of us will be doing. I mean, that's one thing about Hartwell, at least on the Georgia side, dude, there is pockets everywhere. I mean, it's cove after cove after cove. So that's my guess what a lot of them are going to be doing is up in them coves. They
will. They said, and they were talking today, I think I was listening to Bass Talk Live, and they were talking to Mark Menendez, who is a Bassmaster Elite angler, but he did not qualify, and he was saying the same thing. He said, it's going to be a slugfest. He's predicting that it's going to take 20 pounds a day to win, which would be 60 pounds to win the tournament.
I think that's probably, I think it's pretty fair.
Yeah.
I was thinking anywhere between 57 to 61, somewhere in there. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. And like, honestly, the weather, it's because of the weather. It's setting up so good. The crazy thing is, and I was kind of texting Matt this last night, is these guys practiced last Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They had Monday off. I think they had Monday and Tuesday off for like obligations, sponsor stuff. They had a half a day on Wednesday. They had Thursday off, and then they start their classic on Friday. So what practice they had last week, that's pretty much that's probably about thrown out the window, honestly, because the weather has greatly improved, and it's going to be super the thing is they're going to have super stable weather, which is going to make for really good fishing. And I'm with Matt. I honestly believe this tournament's going to be won with somebody catching them in the back of a creek, or at least that's what I hope. That's the way I like to fish. But again, some guy might have a mega school offshore and catch them with forward facing sonar and Panoptics and live scope and all that. But I also texted Matt yesterday and I asked him, I said, let's make some predictions. So I wanted him to predict who he thinks going to win, who he wants to win, because, you know, we all have this guy we're rooting for, and then who he thinks like kind of a dark horse, like a guy that nobody really expects to win.
Yeah.
So do you want to go first, Matt, or do you want me to go?
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, well, I'll go first. I'll do one and then you do one and
All right.
we'll start with
let's
go ahead.
What no, you go ahead. We'll start with whoever you want to start with.
I say who we want to win. That's what we'll start with.
Okay.
For me personally, I would love to see Gerald Swindle win. I mean, that's kind of, I feel like the guy deserves it. He's been doing this for a long time, and he's a very likable person when you watch him. You know, obviously, I don't know the guy, but I would love to see. That's who, like, if I could pay for someone to win, that's who I would pay to win, would be Gerald Swindle. So,
yeah, I agree, man. I mean, that's not my choice, but the crazy thing about Gerald Swindle is he's never really won. He's never won a Bassmaster Elite tournament.
Nope.
He's won an Open, but he's also won 2 Angler of the Year. So, like, the dude is super consistent. Yeah, Gerald Swindle would be a fan favorite. I mean, the dude's awesome. I watch him. He doesn't really have a YouTube channel, but I watch a lot of his stuff. Like, I mean, I search him on YouTube, but like he's got like a TikTok channel and a Facebook channel, and the dude is just hilarious. Like, he's the kind of dude you just want to hang out with.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's hard not to root against him.
Southern boy, man. He just seems like a real genuine guy, man. And you know, he's getting older, and who knows how much longer he's gonna be able to do this. And I would love to see him get one for sure.
And I honestly think it could fit his fishing style because he's kind of a junk fisherman, man.
He puts 20 jig fisherman.
Yeah. He'll put 20 rods out there and just go down the bank. So I like that one. For me, the guy I'm really pulling for is Jason Christie. And he's just one of my favorite fishermen. I like his demeanor. I like the way he presents himself. And I like the way he fishes.
Aluminum boat guy.
Yeah, and he runs an aluminum boat, which is cool. And he's been close, man. He almost won that one in Oklahoma that his buddy Edwin Evers won. And the cool thing about Jason Christie was he left Bassmasters when they had that split, and he went over to MLF, and then he came back and he requalified just like everybody else. And that's my choice. I would love to see him win. And he does have a good track record. He finished 3rd in 2018 at the Classic. So,
and I actually think he won an event on Hartwell. It wasn't the Classic, but I think he's won. I think he's pretty damn good on Hartwell.
Yeah, and the dude is. I'll be honest with you, he's probably the best spinnerbait fisherman there is. You know, put him up there with Jimmy Houston back in the day. Mm-hmm. But like Jason Christie, if those fish move shallow in the back of those pockets, he's going to be up there and he's going to hammer him on the spinnerbait. But he's also a very good jerkbait fisherman. I watched one of his recent YouTube videos. The dude absolutely slaughters fish on a Smithwick Rogue, so he can catch them offshore too. So that's who I would like to see win. I think it would just be a good story. So.
Yeah.
Then I know me and you both agree, and I would have swore you would have said this, but we would both like to see Scott Martin win. Too.
That was actually, Scott Martin was one that, I thought about making him my dark horse, but I'm like, I don't know if that's a dark horse, man, because Scott,
could be though, because the crazy thing is
I was looking at his stats the other day in like championship tournaments, and he's legit, man. He shows up in prime time. And if you look at how he qualified for the Elite Series by people double qualifying through the Opens. That's the only way he got in, because people already double qualified. He got in the Classic because people double qualified. So it seems like he's just got lucky to get there and get there.
And
it's almost destiny. And obviously we know he wants to do it for his dad, Roland. I mean, that's what you and I both watch his channel. I'm a big fan of Scott's channel. So that would probably be my second choice of who I'd want to see win it outside.
What's he called on his channel? Unfinished Business or something?
Unfinished Business. Yeah.
Yeah. The crazy thing though is you just think Scott Martin, this is his first Bassmaster Classic.
Yeah, it is wild.
It is. I mean, but the dude fished FLW for a million years. So, and he like he said, he qualified. He wasn't just invited to the elites. He qualified through the Opens. So he deserves to be there. And like you said, he almost didn't make it, but because some guys they double qualify through the opens, he was able to push in because he kind of struggled last year at times in his first season. But
Yeah,
you'll have that. But yeah, I think just the storyline alone, it would be pretty awesome to see Scott Martin win it.
yeah, me too. You want to give us your dark horse, or do you want to do your winner?
Well, no. So my dark horse is not really a dark horse, but I'm gonna say Seth Fighter as my dark horse because he is returning Angler of the Year, but I don't think anybody's really.
No one's talking about him.
Yeah.
No, they're not.
And the dude's a junk fisherman too, honestly. So, and I like the dude a lot. You know, the Dirty Llama. I think he's a cool dude. Like, so, the dude's strictly about fishing. Honestly, that's why he doesn't have much social media and much YouTube videos. Like, he doesn't want to do that stuff. He just wants to fish. So,
Yeah.
That would be my dark horse. Honestly, it was hard. I was going through the list, and I'm like, I'm having a hard time finding a dark horse because, yeah, I could name like a college angler or something, but I don't know anything about those guys. And I must be honest with you, I'm not saying there's always a shooter's chance, but those dudes probably won't be around come day 3, you know? So,
yeah. My dark horse is, and you're probably going to know, but this is probably my third person I want to see win it. And it's kind of, I don't know if he's really a dark horse, but it's Hunter. I mean, like, I think Hunter Shryock he's a good junk fisherman. I mean, that's kind of like, he grew up here in Ohio, and that's another reason I really like Hunter. He knows what it's like here in Ohio, and that's what you got to do in these lakes in Ohio. You have to junk fish.
Yep.
And you have to work your butt off for him. So I'm going to call it my dark horse pick. Do I think it's realistic? I don't know. He's never won an event, but he knows how to flip and pitch, man. And that's what he's going to do. That I promise you that he ain't going to be offshore. He's going to be flipping and pitching.
Yeah.
So,
I'll be surprised if he doesn't have a really good tournament, to be honest with
you. Yeah, me too. I agree. So
and
that's
the crazy
kind of
thing about Hunter is he has moved to the South, so he's getting much more
fishing with Wheeler. You know,
yeah.
And that's one thing I did want to touch on real quick. So the Bassmaster Classic is like obviously the Masters in golf. You know, it's the event, but it still bothers me that the best bass fisherman in the world is not fishing this tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And that's Jacob Wheeler. I mean, that's all there's to it. And like, as much as I love bass, man, I really wish some of them guys were in it because, you know, Jacob Wheeler is the best bass fisherman in the world. And it doesn't take away from it, but when you watch these big events, like in golf, you want to see the best, you know, and
absolutely.
That's the best of the best right there, right now. And
but it was like that for years too. Cause you know, FLW guys, because FLW had some studs, man. I mean, they had the Wheelers, the Martins, you know, of the world. So, yeah, I'm with you. And that you kind of ruined my next section, Matt, because when you was asked for my favorite, I was going to say Jacob. Oh, wait a minute, he's not fishing in this tournament. So, but we'll just talk about. I'll go over my favorite, who I think will win. And I don't know much about these guys. I mean, I obviously know their names. I've listened to them on some podcasts and stuff, but these are everybody's favorites. I was looking at the odds. Bassmaster put odds out, and I have two names, but I think number one is Brandon Cobb, and he's a young angler. He's already been super successful, but the reason I think he lives in South Carolina, and he won the 2019 Elite Series event on Lake Hartwell. And the other one I picked as the favorite is Patrick Walters, who won an Open there in 2020, finished 11th in 2019 at the Elite Series event, at the Elite Series event, he finished 11th. And I think if the fish stay deep, Patrick Walters, he's the dude. They said he's probably the best with the forward-facing sonar at this point.
Yeah.
So, and those were my two, and they're kind of blah, but like, because that's who everybody's picking. But I mean, it makes sense. They're both from South Carolina. They both have won there recently, and they're young anglers. I think they're super hungry, and we'll see what happens. I mean, and then I also wanted to say one of my other dark horses. I forgot to mention him too. And he's not really a dark horse, but we haven't brought up Hank Cherry.
Yeah,
Hank Cherry's going for a three-peat. You know, I mean, would that be something?
Yep, absolutely.
You know, a lot of people have won the Bassmaster Classic back to back. You know, recently Jordan Lee, Kevin Van Dam, but
Rick Clunn.
Yeah. But Hank Cherry has a chance to repeat it.
Yeah.
And he fishes. I mean, he's a North Carolina guy, but that ain't that North Carolina, South Carolina. I mean, I would say, and he's a master with that jerk bait. So again, I think if the fish, if he can catch them out deep with his jerk bait, he has an absolute chance.
Yeah, I agree.
And that dude. Oh, and I was going to say that dude almost won the Bassmaster Classic on Grand Lake. He literally had the winning fish and lost it at the boat. He catches that fish, he wins that Bassmaster Classic too. So,
yeah, honestly, man, Paul and Nick's fishing this, right?
Yep,
that's
he's actually kind of a favorite too in the odds. I seen the odds he was up at the top.
Paul Nick's a great fisherman, man, and I think he's someone that it's not who I would be picking to win, but he's someone you want to keep an eye on. But honestly, I picked Christie to win. That's who I think. I think, and it's not that I dislike Jason, but I don't really watch him a lot. But he's due, and he's had success on this lake. He's come close in the Classic, and I feel like it's his time. And that's really that's how I came to that conclusion. Really, it came down to that. I mean, he's won on Hartwell before. He knows the lake. He's been doing this for a long time now, and I think Christie's going to win it. I really do.
Well, and he has a ton of experience because let's be honest with you, we were talking about MLF when 3 years ago when the MLF formed, they took a big part of these Bassmaster elite guys. And these new guys are hammers. They can fish, but they don't have the experience. Like you look at the field, and a lot of these guys are fishing their first, second, third Bassmaster Classic. Well, Jason Christie, I think, is fishing upwards of this is probably like his 7th or 8th one. So
exactly,
he has that. He has that, and that's what scares me about Scott Martin. Scott Martin's fished some of the biggest tournaments in the world, but he's never fished Bassmaster Classic. And even these guys who fished Forest Wood, they'll say nothing compares to the Classic.
It's not the Classic.
They were even saying they were asking on the podcast today, they were like, do you think Scott Martin will be nervous blasting off on day one? I mean, the guy's done everything other than this. And the guy that they were interviewing, he was like, yeah, if he's not nervous, he's not human.
Yeah.
Like, this is the biggest tournament in the world. Like,
yeah. And
so,
the Forest Wood Cup's like the U.S. Open. The Classic's like the Masters, man. You know what I mean? Like, that's just it's the tournament, and it's bigger than anything, even in MLF, obviously, or Bass Pro Tour, whatever. So I love the Bassmaster Classic, but I am going to bitch about it a little bit. It pisses me off that they do it the same time of year every year. I wish they would spread it out. It's always a pre-spawn tournament. Well, didn't they just move it though? Like a few years back, didn't they change it to the fall?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it's probably
not the fall, years. Not the fall. I'm sorry, early spring. Yeah.
Yeah. It's probably been 10 years since they've had like a summer or fall Classic, and it's kind of backwards because they start off like they've already had 2 Elite Series tournaments, but they usually start the season off with the Bassmaster Classic.
Yeah, it confuses the shit out of me. Like the fact they're already fishing 2 other events and stuff. Yeah.
And it's me being super bitter because I want to go to a Bassmaster Classic, but I don't really want to have to drive all the way to South Carolina or Alabama or Texas or Oklahoma.
Right. Yeah, and I'm like, it's Hartwell, Gunnersville.
Yeah, and I'm like, man, bring it up north. Bring it up north there in the summer. Let's catch some smallies. Like, oh my god! And honestly, I think Lake St. Clair would be the perfect spot for a summer Classic. It's right because there's a lot of logistics that goes into this. They need to have a big arena. They need to have parking, all this. They have all that at Lake St. Clair. It's right outside Detroit. And to be honest with you, Detroit gets a bad rap, but Detroit is kind of a growing city right now. And what would be better to help progress that city than the Bassmaster Classic? So that's just me, but I don't make those decisions, obviously.
Let me ask you this and tell me what you think on this. Because I do believe this. Do you believe that Van Dam will be back in Bassmaster?
I do, but I don't, because unfortunately he gets paid so much money. So they did a thing on a podcast where they secretly, anglers are real secret about what kind of money they make, these top tier anglers. And they think Van Dam, well, obviously they think Van Dam's probably he makes the most money on a yearly basis through his sponsor. His sponsor's Bass Pro Shop. Well, Bass Pro Shop has pretty much pulled they don't do anything for the Elite Series or Bassmaster. So they're all BT or Bass Pro Tour, Major League Bass Fishing. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think he would want to come back, because I'll be honest with you, he hasn't really been that successful in the MLF format.
No, he won Chickamauga last year, and
yeah,
I mean, he's actually started off pretty good this year. He's been in both events, but I just feel like he's a Bassmaster guy, man. Like he's like a Swindle and Ike and Ellie, and I know, and Van Dam is regarded as the best ever to a lot of people, and I still think he is. I mean, I think Wheeler's on track to be better than that at some point.
Yeah, When you talk about the GOAT, it's Van Dam. I mean, Wheeler is the best fisherman right now, and he eventually could pass him, and I think he will. But yeah, there's no doubt Van Dam has. I mean, dude's won 4 Bassmaster Classics.
Yeah, and I just think when these guys get older, the Bassmaster layout format is easier to fish. Not easier, but better for them. I mean, dude, it's how you going to compete with a Wheeler reeling in 100 and something pounds of bass in a day? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, and you got to bend down, and you can't let them touch the deck, and you got to release them below the gunnel, and all these damn rules and stuff. And I mean, if I was an older guy, that would wear on your body physically after a while,
Oh, absolutely.
And I could just see Van Dam, but like you said, Bass Pro is his main title sponsor, and they don't have anything to do with Bassmaster anymore. So
and it's not like he gets a couple free rods and reels and some baits like that.
No.
They're paying him upwards of high 6 figures, I guarantee.
Oh yeah,
Bass Pro Shop is for real, and that's saying a lot, because bass fishermen honestly don't make that much money. I mean, they really don't.
They don't.
They get a lot of stuff for free, but those dudes struggle. A lot of them do, honestly.
Yeah,
and they do it because they love to do it. I'd say Van Dam, Ike and Ellie, those are probably the two that probably make the most money off of sponsorships. But yeah, I would love to see him come back to Bassmaster, because that's where he belongs. Honestly, he's and I'll be honest with you, I'm just a Bassmaster guy myself. Like I miss some of those anglers that went over to Major League Bass Fishing, but I love 5-fish format so much better than I like.
Yeah, me too.
Even though I do have some dudes over there we always talk about, like Dustin Connell, Jacob Wheeler, Mark Daniels Jr. I like those guys a lot.
The money crew, that's what they call them. They
the Ding crew.
Yeah, they're incredible. They're fun to watch, man. And something else about with Van Dam with the Classic is, I think I heard this on Luke Duncan's podcast. I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but Wheeler or none of them even showed up to the Classic just to be there for the sponsors. But Van Dam was there,
and he was.
And I just feel like that guy, man, he is Bassmaster to me, and that's, I hope it happens. In my heart, I hope it happens, but who knows? And
he could come back. He wouldn't even have to qualify. He gets exempt. I mean, he's won so many Bassmaster Classics and stuff.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be like, I'm not going through them open. Dude, I've won so many tournaments, more money than all you guys ever imagined. I'm just going to come back on my legend exemption. So.
Yeah, and I think that's a topic for another day, but we can talk about how hard it is to qualify. I mean, the opens are crazy, but.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, this was fun, dude. I mean, you have anything else you want to talk about tonight, or?
No, just to finish up the Bassmaster Classic stuff for you guys who have never watched this. It used to be we'd have to wait for it to come out on ESPN. Now, with the technology, you guys can watch this live, and it's awesome. Get on the Bassmaster.com, and you can sit there and you can watch it live. And I want to talk about live coverage real quick. Live coverage is awesome because these anglers now can't hide anything. So if you're a fish head like me and Matt, you can pick up stuff by watching these guys on live. And it's pretty awesome. You know what I mean? Like before, I can tell sometimes what lures they're using, and they're not always using their sponsored lures, but they would say they were, and we didn't know any different. But now with live, they can't hide anything, and it's awesome. So I highly recommend. Like I pretty much I called her my girlfriend earlier, but she's my fiance, because when we took a break, she corrected me because she obviously can hear me. But she said, I pretty much told her, I'm like, yeah, Friday, Saturday. Well, I have to work Friday, and we'll probably be busy. But if not, I'll be at work watching it, and then Saturday, Sunday, I'm going to be pretty much glued to the Lazy Boy watching the Bassmaster Classic. Yeah, and I like to watch bass fishing on TV. I watch a lot of the other stuff, but I really stay glued to the Classic. I mean, I like it. So,
yeah, Yeah, man.
And the coverage is awesome. It really is.
Yeah, the bass track coverage is awesome. Yeah, it is. I 100% agree with that. So,
and I'll be sending Matt updates when he's out fishing. Hopefully, he'll be sending me some fish photos.
Yeah,
and I'll be sending him updates from the.
I wouldn't hold your breath. If it ain't happening, me and Ryan's gonna be down buying euros. There's a great Greek Euro restaurant right down there by Island Creek that me and Ryan had a little friendly wager. Ryan's a Minnesota Timberwolves fan, and they played the Cavaliers last night. And he's like, sent me an emoji like lunch for the winner of this game for Saturday. I was like, I'll take that bet. And the Wolves won. So I know what he's won. He's want to go get them euros, which is fine with me. They're great. So
that's a win-win, though.
Yep. So yeah, guys, we appreciate you watching. The plan is to drop. I'm thinking I'm going to try to release them every Friday morning. Is the plan as of right now.
Yep.
That's when you guys will be seeing this episode. So, everybody stay safe out there. Josh, appreciate it, buddy. It's fun. I look forward to the next one, man. It's going to be.
Yeah.
I
think next week we'll plan on maybe doing some boat stuff.
Yeah, guys, and we're just going to wing it for a lot of times. You know, I mean, today was kind of structured with just introducing ourselves and the podcast and all that stuff. But after today, it's going to be just talking fishing, talking boats, talking whatever. Just having fun with it, guys. So make sure you guys leave some feedback in the comment section. If you, and just a reminder, you know, this is going to be on the Bread for Bass page. But so if you're seeing this, Bread for Bass family, go over to Ohio Bass Guru, subscribe to his channel. Great content there. So, yeah, cool. It was fun, dude.
It's fun, man. I can't wait till next week.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, we'll talk to everybody soon. Everybody stay safe out there.